when you look at the executive levels of football, whether they be at the head coach level, general manager level, or principal in charge, uh, the opportunities given to people of color, specifically blacks, are, in my opinion, abysmal.
Let's go behind the mask.
Man, what up? What's happening? We got a lot to talk about, really a lot to talk about, because that was Rod Graves, the executive director of the Fritz Pollard Alliance. Over a year ago, he came on the BTM podcast himself, Harry Carson, one of the all-time greats, New York football giants. They represent all of the minority coaches, player personnel, execs, officials, and non-player roles to really create racial and gender diversity in the National Football League. We obviously, you're here because you know what the problem is. Yeah. And it stemmed from the lawsuit from Brian Flores, and it goes back to 2019 when he had an interview with the Denver Broncos. He said that John Elway arrived to the interview 1 hour late and appeared hungover. Then you fast forward a little bit later, 2019, he was offered $100K by the Dolphins owner, Stephen Ross, for each loss to improve the draft position.
Crazy.
Also known as tanking. And what was his response to that?
Nah, he wasn't with it. And that's illegal. He wouldn't do it.
Yeah. So now you look at 2020, he was pressured to meet with the prominent quarterback to recruit him throughout the process of free agency to get him to come to Miami. And tampering, right? He wasn't down with that. And now in 2022, he learned the Giants' plan to hire Brian Dable from Bill Belichick, his in-person interview. He learned that before his in-person interview. And so, man, listen, you know, I really don't know where to start because it's disappointing. And if you go back to the Rooney Rule, you know, like what exactly is the Rooney Rule? Let me catch you up. The Rooney Rule was established in 2003 from the Rooneys, owners of the Pittsburgh Steelers, to increase the number of minorities hired in the head coach, general manager, executive positions. And, you know, in the executive level, they must interview at least 2 diverse candidates from the career development of the advisory panel list. And then they also must conduct an in-person interview with at least 1 external minority candidate for any GM or head coaching vacancy. So, you know, we talked about this before in the previous 2 seasons that we had, and it's something that consistently comes up over and over and over again. And I was shocked and surprised to see head coach Brian Flores just come out and say, look, I'm putting this lawsuit and I understand that I may be risking coaching the game that I love. After filing the lawsuit. And ultimately what he's saying is that the NFL is racially segregated.
Yeah. And try to unpack that for a minute, because the NFL is been showing that it's huge on diversity, right? They celebrated Pride Week last week in terms of minority hiring, even implementing the Rooney Rule so teams could be more diverse in their hiring. And I think one of the things that I do want to bring to the light is that it's kind of it's one and the same in terms of NFL when you talk about the league and when you talk about the 32 teams.
Right.
So with the NFL being big on diversity, you can look no further than the NFL's website. Go on their operations page. In terms of diversity, you got Troy Vincent, Executive VP of Football Operations, Black man. Dawn Aponte, Chief Football Administrative Officer, white woman. Moving down, Perry Fuels, SVP of Officiating Communications Administrative, a Black man. Kimberly Fields, SVP Football Business Strategy, a Black woman. Arthur McAfee, SVP of Football Operations Policy Education, a Black man. You have Tracy Perlman, a woman. Jade Burrows, Chief of Staff Football Operations, another Black woman. So when you look at some of these top positions, I believe 12 of the top 17 positions in the NFL football office are diverse positions, people of color, women, etc. But what happens is now you have 32 teams, right? Primarily composed of 32 billionaires. I've said it before on the Behind the Mask podcast, or corporations that run these teams.
Right.
And when you have 32 billionaires in place, what you can't do is force a billionaire and tell a billionaire who to hire for their position to run one of their businesses. It just don't happen. And unfortunately, that's the effed up truth of the league, of the world that we live in. It's just not happening. And you hear about the people I just talked about in the league office, but you're hearing it here. You're not going to see it on the sports centers. You're not going to see it on the sports networks. That it's not glorified. You know what I mean? But when you don't see it, when it comes to the coaches, it is glorified. And I remember one time we were talking, Spice, and one of the things you said is that because the league is made up of 70% people of color or black males that are out there playing on the field, we the majority. But when you come to the positions of leadership and the positions in the executive level, that majority turns into the minority. And I think that's the problem. And with Flores, you got to think of it, bro. You have a CEO of your corporation, your boss basically, trying to pay you, buy you off, to pay you to do something wrong. And if Flores would have got caught, that would have fell on him.
Meaning if he would have got caught doing...
If he would have got caught taking $100,000 to tank. Think of the concept.
Okay.
Taking $100,000 for each game you lose. That's illegal. That's
for me, that still blows my mind, because that's the integrity of the game.
And bro, and that is not what the league is supposed to stand on. That's not what the teams are supposed to stand on. However, again, a billionaire making money because why they want to tank to get the first round pick, or a higher position in the draft to get a first round pick to get potentially a better player for that franchise moving forward. But it's so screwed up because, again, if Flores would have took that money, $100,000 per game, and I think that year they started off, they wound up losing, I think, 8 games or 7 games that year. Still had a winning season. You take that money and something and people find out about it. Now you're under scrutiny. You may not have a job again in the NFL. Yep. But guess what? That billionaire still got $1 billion, because if they make him sell a team, he's going to sell a team for billions of dollars. That's the screwed up part of the position you putting this man in for his livelihood, a young man, young black brother. So that's the part that I don't really, I can't get with. And again, if it happened, and we just heard Hugh Jackson come out and say, yeah, it's happened to him when he was coaching the Browns.
Yep.
How many other times has it happened? How many other coaches have taken money to tank to get a first round pick? And what is that really doing for the integrity of the game? And how the hell we gonna change this, man? When this is what they putting on the table, what's the solution?
I think even before you even get to the solution, I think we just really need to highlight, like, why is this so important? Because it's not just football. This is happening in every corporation. This is happening in every enterprise. And when you look at it, I think of Brian Flores. I have to commend him for having the courage to be able to come out and do this and come out and admit it. Yeah. Because let me remind you, there's only one black coach in the National Football League, right, and there are still at this time 5 vacancies. Mm-hmm. So he's still a finalist for other jobs. Yeah. So, like, I'm thinking, how does he have the courage to come out and do this, knowing and understanding at the end of the day, I may not never coach again. Yeah. To have a big sack and be able to do that. Yeah. And he understands it ain't even, for me, this is so unselfish. And the reason why I say this, it's not so much about him, even though he's going to get the headlines and, he's going to be the direct recipient of whatever the consequences may be. Yeah. But he's doing it for the greater good of everybody else who look like me, you, the greater good of the good of the people who want to be inclusive when it comes to women being able to be hired in C-suite positions. Mm-hmm. And so I commend him for that, number one. Number two, this is the thing that I really hope people understand out of this. He already said, I come from a place of truth, right? I come from a place of truth. And what makes Brian Flores so dangerous right now, because he's in a position to where he's operating in a place of like, I'm no longer in need.
Yeah.
You can't control me by the dollar, nor will I sell out for the dollar. And we talked about that when he didn't tank. Yeah. And the thing that's crazy for me is he started this past season 1-7, ended the season 8-1. Yeah. That's a winning record. It ain't a losing record.
2 years in a row.
Yeah. So when you see the body of work that he's done, put together, and if you take into account, even if he would have tanked, even if he would have met with the prominent quarterback on the boat, he still could have been fired for just not being productive, not meeting the mark. But at the end of the day, he is still labeled as non-compliant and difficult to work with, which ultimately led to his firing.
Yeah. You know how it is in the league, man. And people, if y'all don't know, there is a saying in the NFL, shit rolls downhill. And in the executive level, it's definitely going to roll downhill. And none other than Brian Flores, because you would think, like, when he did get fired, everybody in the Dolphins community, they were sitting there like, what? How? He just had a winning season. Like, how does a coach that has only been there a couple of years and have winning seasons while he's there from a team that was trash prior to that?
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Obviously making strides.
They were not relevant. People they weren't afraid of him when they. I remember when we got the schedule, we used to look at certain teams and be like, okay, win. Miami, win. Yeah. They'll play good defense, but win. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? So that's how we marked it up.
Yeah, and moving the team in the right direction, but then this happens. And then also think about the whole concept of what he's going through. Then you go to another interview for another job, and you get a text from your former employer, Bill Belichick, saying that congratulations on, I heard you're the guy for the job, but he got the wrong Brian. You know what I'm saying? Like, so imagine what you feel like.
That's trick.
When you're like, oh shit, this is so. You feel like it's a whole. You in the Matrix, like you in Twilight Zone. Is this really happening? And if this is what goes on in the NFL with these teams, there has to be another way. And again, you salute Brian Flores. I do too. There has to be another way to overcome this, because I want what's best for Brian Flores, right? For being the poster boy for this movement, right?
Yep.
Not because of the money, not because of he can get another job, but like you said, for what he's doing for the people that are coming up. We talked about Eric Bieniemy wanting to get a head coaching job, being an offensive coordinator on one of the best offenses over the last half a decade in the Kansas City Chiefs. Byron Leftwich, coordinator for the Bucs that just took him to the Super Bowl a couple years ago. They won a Super Bowl. Like we talk about these coordinators that have been there for so long, and other
Leslie Frazier,
that was a former head coach, also a coordinator, and you wonder why don't they get the same opportunities? Again, there's five positions left, head coaching positions left.
5 head coaching positions left.
There are plenty applicants out there, and if this Rooney Rule really worked, there's no possible way that they wouldn't be filled by Black head coaches that have had success at the highest level. So he's doing the right thing in terms of making sure that the people that come after him have an opportunity, putting it out front, sacrificial lamb for Black coaches that are out there.
Yeah.
Because again, we look at what happened with Kaepernick. Kaepernick raised a flag on some things that he didn't feel that were going on right within the NFL, but he didn't get an opportunity to play again. So you got to believe the same thing
is going
to happen to Brian Flores. Like he may not have an opportunity to coach again, and if he doesn't, that's the screwed up part, bro.
Yeah, it is the screwed up part. And just to put it in context, so you understand, like both sides. Like even when we did the interview with Rod Graves, executive director of the Fritz Pollard Alliance, back then, I got it in my notes. Good, I'm staying organized. All right. So look. Back then, it was 4 people of color in coaching positions, which was 12%. Now we're down to 1. It's only 3% of the NFL. Then we had 2 Black GMs at the time, Miami and Cleveland. Now we're up to 5.
Yeah, moving in the right direction. 0 team presidents back then. Now we have 1 with Jason Wright of the Washington Commanders.
Shout out to them. Still doesn't sound right, but if you like it, we love it. That's the only thing I'm gonna say about that. So, is the Rooney Rule, is it doing its job? No, it's not. Like you said, too, the billionaires have found ways to be able to circumvent what they are doing. And at the end of the day, like, I look at this from non-bias. If I'm a billionaire, it's gonna be hard for you to tell me what to do too if you ain't coming up with the same amount of money as me. Right. Just how it is. But where you're wrong is when you look at the league as a whole and you understand it's 70% plus when we're talking about the product that's out on the football field too, 70% plus, and these guys out here going out here doing what needs to be done. And the football is at an all-time high. We just finished the greatest playoffs probably in the existence of the 100 plus years of the NFL. And so you mean to tell me you can't have people of color or people who looks like the people who are out there on the field putting in that sweat equity as well as being compensated for it? You can't get somebody in a C-level suite position of leadership? Come on, man. That ain't it. And that ain't gonna never be it. And so that's the reason why when I look at it overall, too, it's all about, what are the solutions?
What's the crazy part, Spikes, to what you just said? Another background for the people that don't know, may not know. So when we come into the NFL, right, when we get drafted, free agent, when we're coming out of college, we go to the combines, the pro days, we go to the interviews for these teams. They know everything about you from when you were a teen, a kid, about your family. They have federal investigators that may follow you if you've been in trouble as a young man. They know everything about your background. Case in point, went to the combine. I'm from New York. My last name is Reyes. My favorite team growing up was the New York Giants. I got a tattoo of a crown and a Yankee sign.
Jailhouse tattoo, baby.
Listen, man, 5 points representing the 5 boroughs. Do you know what this coach said? Remember Mouse? Mouse, the O-line coach, rest in peace, Mouse, for the Buffalo Bills. This man asked me, see, you got a crown on your arm and it's hanging to the left, kind of like Latin Kings. He said, so you in the Latin Kings? I looked at him, I said, what? He said, you in the Latin Kings? I said, nah. He said, so what about your homeboys, your posse? I said, man, I ain't got no posse. He said, well, what about your crew? Where they at? Guys you grew up with? I said, they college graduates. Some have jobs. Some are executives already. Like, and that turned me off. But all that to say, this is the shit that we go through before we get a job. This is how detailed that they claim they want to be, right? I know it's definitely offensive. It was offensive to me. I got up and walked out the room. But if they are that detailed for some 17, 18, 19-year-olds that they're going to hire to sit there, these teams that they're going to hire to sit there and pay them millions of dollars. Right. You're paying the coaches millions of dollars too. You can do some damn research and find out what a black coach is about and what his history is about, and you know his pedigree. So there's no possible way that you got 32 teams in the NFL and one black coach. Impossible. That means you lazy and not doing your research.
Or you don't want to do your research.
Or you don't want to do your research. It's either way. There's no other possible explanation. None. And it's screwed up that, again, we had this conversation last year, and we had it 2 years ago, 1.5 years ago, when we had Harry Carson on here too. When is this shit gonna change, bro?
And this is why it's hard for it to change. And I'm keeping it a buck right here. When you're in these situations, especially as the coach, player, whatever, usually the person with the most money or who has the biggest bag, they will suppress the worst of all of the unjust that has been done in retentional practices because they know the minority can't speak out, even if they wanted to. Why? Because like I said earlier, it's still 5 head coaching vacancies are open. Right. And Brian Flores really should get a job. But because if you speak out, they're like, oh, nah, I'm going to penalize you for that. because I'm afraid you might sabotage the organization.
Mm-hmm.
So, bro, like I said, I commend him for doing that, and it's sad, and it's very sad because for him to know that he had so much to gain from a monetary standpoint from this point moving forward, he said, you know what? It doesn't matter that much to me. All I want to do is live in the truth and make sure other people have the opportunity who come behind me to be able to be established and be able to be looked upon as, don't judge me by my skin color. Judge me by what I bring to the table, judge me by my merit, and judge me by my resume to why I'm in this office right now interviewing for this job.
And that shows the dignity that he has, right? Because how many people would be like, you know what, $100,000, team isn't that good, I'll take it. Nobody's gonna know it's coming from the CEO. Like, how many people would take that and kind of, it's like hush money.
Plenty.
You know what I'm saying?
That's exactly what it is.
So I can appreciate the dignity that this man has, and I think we all can, and we can stand on that, because I've said it time and time again. The most powerful thing in this world is a person that is not moved by money. And clearly Flores is not moved by money. Salute to what he's doing and taking a stand. I hope he gets a job, and I hope that people that are coming behind him can realize, like, nah, like, this ain't how it's supposed to be. And somebody's taking a stand for it. And I hope that there are current players, like we're using our platform to speak on it. So I hope there's current players that are out there using their platforms to actually say, you know what, this ain't right. Because imagine if you were a quarterback in this league, Super Bowl's coming up, you know, you got a playoff run in front of you, you're Aaron Rodgers or Tom Brady or, you know, Peyton Manning when he was playing, one of these guys. And imagine y'all not doing well to start the season off, and the team owner comes up to you and says, I'll give you an extra amount of money if you start losing games. That's tanking. That's illegal.
That's people point shaving.
That's gambling that the league is against. Sports betting's out now, so not really. But you know what I'm saying? That's the stuff that they told us, nah, don't do. So what is the difference in saying that, no, the players can't do it, but now you telling a damn coach to do it? So what's the coach gonna do? Line up and go for it on 4th and 19? Huh? Call a quarterback draw on 4th and 19? What you gonna do? Like, what are you gonna do as a coach? What play are you gonna call? What lineup are you gonna put out there to make your team not win? Salute, because damn it, it was about to fall on a black man and it did.
And peep this. When they asked him the question, do you understand the ramifications of what you've done and what you're doing? He was like, yeah. His response was priceless. He said, God has gifted me with a special talent to coach the game of football, but the need for change is bigger than my personal goals. Let me say that one more time. But the need for change is bigger than my personal goals. That's what Brian Flores said. In making the decision to file the class action complaint, I understand that I may be risking the coaching the game I love and has done so much for my family and him. My sincere hope is that by standing up against systemic racism in the NFL, others will join me to ensure that positive change is made for generations to come.
It is. Can't get much more clearer than that.
Very clear, succinct,
direct,
concise, direct statement.
Yeah, man.
So now he's in a position to where he could be looked upon as a martyr at the end of the day when it's all said and done.
Yeah.
And so I guess, I don't even know if you call it a call to action, but I think it's more so awareness. Because I think anything in life, and I say this all the time, awareness is the beginning of change. Mm-hmm. There's no way that you can change if you're not aware of what's going on. He is clearly aware. And so now it leads to really the solutions to, you know, and I think you really dug in on it. I think number one, what we got to start doing and understanding, even as a big group, is if you have any affiliation or any love for the NFL, especially the affiliation, It doesn't matter when you were in it, even though you may be out. It's imperative. You can't speak up enough. Don't be having side conversations with people complaining, but you're not willing to put in the work to say something. Your word matters. Your opinion matters. And this fact is not even an opinion. It's fact. So if you are retired, you had any affiliation with the league, pick up the phone and call somebody who wants to talk about it. It's the hottest subject of the moment right now. Yeah. And then two, I'll always believe in this. You know, the NFL has the slogan, it takes all of us. Well, you know what? It does. It takes all of us. And that's not just black players. That's white players. People who are non-black. It takes all of us. I saw Ron Rivera coming out today. Hispanic background. He was saying this guy needs, speaking in reference to Brian Flores, he needs an opportunity to be able to go and interview for a coaching job. He deserves a head coaching job. That came out of his mouth. And so we need guys like that, white players. Yeah, it don't matter if you're retired or not. We need you to come up to the plate, because if anybody knows the struggle of the black athlete, it's the white players who walk in that locker room each and every day and hear the stories. It's a soap opera. It's probably one of the most beautiful soap operas you will ever hear, because the story always changes. So we need our counterparts who love the game. Like if you love the game and the game has been good to you, you owe the game that. Right. And then last but not least, and I commend the guys, the active guys who are playing, because as much as we say it's the fans' issue or it's the coach, or it could be the coach's issue, it's your issue too. And clearly I don't have to remind the guys, because they understand the awareness and the heightened sensitivity of what we're going through. But active guys, challenge, come out and say that's not right. That's not a true representation of who we are. It's not a true representation of what the league is made up of when people turn the TV on. 70% plus is people of color, black. Come on. So that's how, these are some of the solutions. And ultimately, we need more people of color owning teams. I know the Denver Broncos is up for sale right now. Mm-hmm. Hey, I believe I could raise that $4 billion.
Robert Smith's supposed to be getting in on it too.
Yeah. So, so when we look at this, those are some of the solutions that really come to mind when I look at it overall too. Yeah,
man, I'm with you, bro. And like I said, I just hope that this is the beginning of the change that we need to see in the NFL with these teams, because, pardon the pun, but it's black and white, like you see it. You know what I mean? It doesn't get any clearer. So at this point, it's in your face, and either you are willingly ignoring it, or you turning a blind eye. You know what I mean? But either way, you see it. Everybody sees it. I mean, we saw it when we played.
And if you're silent about it, your silence implies that you're okay with what's going on. Period.